Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Ziad and today we are going to see together how to use Symfony console component in combination with HTTP client component in order to download a file with a nice progress bar indicating the download progress. I will be asking some questions by the end of this video in order for you to test your knowledge and see what you have memorized. Let's see what we are going to have by the end of this video. We are going to have a command line that will download a file and it will indicate a nice progress bar like this. So here I have executed bin console file download, and then I am showing a progress bar indicating the download progress in the time. That's what we are going to have, and let's see together how we can achieve this. So the first step would be to create a Symfony project. To do so, we are going to use Composer, and that would be using Composer, create project, and then Symfony skeleton, the version 6.3, and then we are going to give the project name file download command. If I hit enter, Composer will download all the dependencies and create a Symfony project for me. So that would be the first step. Then once Composer has downloaded all his dependency and created the project, we are going to open this project with our IDE. In our case, it would be PHP Storm. So Composer is almost done. Okay, Composer is done. Now let's open this project. So here I have opened my project with PHP Storm. I have a simple Symfony project structure. And in order to create a command, we are simply going to create a folder here, new folder. Let's give it a command name, and then within I'm going to create a class, PHP class. Let's give it file download command. And in order to have a command in Symfony, simply just extend Symfony default command class, and like that Symfony will recognize this as a command. In order to see more in depth how to create a Symfony console command, if you want to see that, I'm going to link in the description a video that I have created previously showing in details on how to create a Symfony command. So as I said, here we are going to have a Symfony command. In order to give it a name, we just have to add a PHP attribute, and that would be as command attribute over here. So our command would be named file download, and it would have description as downloads a file locally. And then we are going to give an argument to our command. The argument would be simply the URL to the file that we are going to download. To do so, we have to override the configure method, and we just have to add an argument. Add argument again. If you are not too familiar with creating a Symfony command line, just refer to the link of the video that I have put it in the description, and that will guide you in details on how to achieve that. So here I'm going to give it a URL name, and then it would be an argument, input argument optional, meaning that we will have a default value if the user have not provided us with the URL for simplicity. And then the description would be file URL, and then the default value, I'm going to take a default value of a file that we can download with a simple GET request, which would be this URL over here, and we are done for defining the argument. Now let's override the execute method. The execute method is where all the magic would happen. So protected function execute. Let's remove this code over here, and let's add a return type of integer. Also, we should have this void over here as a return type of configure, otherwise we are going to have a small deprecation message while executing the command. And here in the execute, we are going to call the HTTP client in order to download the file. But first we have to download this component, because by default it won't come in the default Symfony project. So in order to download it, we are going to use Composer. First we need to cd our project, which is file download command, and then Composer require Symfony HttpClient, and like that Composer will download the component and make it available for us in our project, and we can use it as we want. In order to use it here in the execute method, we need it injected, and to do so we simply have to declare it in the constructor, and then Symfony will auto inject that for us. So we have just to override the construct method and add an HTTP client interface. Let's give it HTTP client name, and let's make this attribute here private and read only, which are features available in PHP version 8. So here we can use our HTTP client to download the file for us. To do so, we simply are going to define a variable called response, which will have this client, HTTP client, and then request. The request type would be get, and then it would go to the URL that we are going to get from the user, and in order to get that we would simply define a variable called URL, which will equals input get argument of URL, and it will get the value that the user will input when executing the command. So we are going to issue a get request to this URL over here. So the second argument will be URL, and we should be okay with that. Now let's save what we have downloaded into a file. To do so, we are going to define a file handler variable equals fopen, and then let's give the file name file.dat, and the mode of writing the file will be W, because we are going to write, and then we are going to for each on the response that we are getting. So this client stream, and stream will get us chunk by chunk the file that we are going to download. So if the file is 100 megabyte, it will get small chunks until it finishes downloading the file. So we are going to give it the response as argument for the stream, and let's give it a chunk value, and then we are going to write with fwrite to the file handler the chunks that we have received. So chunk get response, get content, sorry. It should be okay for downloading the file. We have just to return now command success, and we should be able to test our command. So let's go ahead and test our command. To do so, we have just to execute php bin console file download, and then we can keep it like this, because by default we are going to have this file over here to download, and otherwise, sorry, I missed a semicolon here. Otherwise, we can give the URL here as an argument, and it will download for us the file specified in this argument over here. Now let's keep it as it is by default. So in the background, Symfony is downloading the file with HTTP component, but we are not seeing too much of a display over here, and we are going to fix that in the next step. So if I go back to my project, I should see somewhere here that I have the file.dat, meaning that we have successfully downloaded the file. While our code is working, an obvious way to improve it is to show to the user that we are doing stuff in the background, and to reassure him that we are progressing, so that he don't get confused while executing the command. So let's add a progress bar, a nice progress bar to our command, and show the user that we are doing stuff in the background. So to add a progress bar, let's define it over here. Progress bar equals new progress bar, and it takes output as first argument because it's going to display something to the user, and then the second argument would be the max steps. Here we are going for 100, meaning that we are going to go from 0 to 100%. And then for the client, actually let's define it in the first step over here, and then in the request we can define as third argument options, and one of the options would be onProgress callback over here, meaning that each time you are progressing in executing a request, we can do some stuff. And here we are going to update our progress bar. So this onProgress here callback, it takes the DL now, which means the amount of data downloaded now until now. DL size would be the amount of data that will be downloaded in total. And then we have a third argument, which is info, contains general information about the data being downloading right now. We are going to use the progress bar over here in our callback function in order to update it. And then we are going to do a small if here, because otherwise we will be dividing by 0. So if we have both DL size and DL now are positive, meaning they are not 0, we will update our progress bar, and we are going to update it by DL now multiplied by 100, and we divide that by DL size. So our progress bar will increment step by step from 0 to 100, and then when DL now reaches DL size, meaning that we have already downloaded all the file, we are going to end the progress bar. So let's test our command line. And yes, we are having our progress bar progressing a little bit step by step until it will reach 100. Yes, and the file is downloaded. So we have improved our command by adding a progress bar, and now the user won't get confused because he is going to see the progress in the output of the command line. That's it guys for this video. Thank you for watching. We are going to have some questions by the end of this video, so keep watching and see you in next videos.